Okay, so I've got my topo surface there, and I can see the ground level. And then I want to put in some more openings in my walls, and then add some different curtain wall patterns. Then give you a better idea about the curtain wall tool. So I'm going to start by selecting this wall that I want to add my opening to. And so how do we make the opening? Yep. Edit profile. So I'm going to go to edit profile. Even though I'm in a 3D view, it should be fairly easy to get the opening the size I want using what I can see on the screen. So here, the Picc lines tool is your best friend. When you're working in a 3D view like this, I can use Picc lines, and notice that I can pick the top of that floor surface, and it projects it to where the wall is. Does that make sense? Right, so even though the line that I've just picked doesn't sit on that floor surface, I know that it's in line with it. And I'm going to do the same thing with the piers, so if I pick either side, again, that line might not look like it's in the right spot, but when I orbit around, can you see how it's exactly in line with the pier? So it's extremely useful when you're working in a 3D view like this, using Picc lines, and trying to think about the surface that your wall lies on. And then you don't have to worry too much about the way it looks on the screen, as long as you're confident and you know where the profile is that you're working with. So, going back to the shape that I've made, I'll use trim to corner and join these lines so that you can see a bit more clearly what I've done. So I'm orbiting there just so that you can see it a bit more easily. And so I've made a U shape essentially. I've got three lines, the two sides and the bottom. So then, what's a way, if we're looking at this image, how can I work out the height of that opening? When you're looking at something like this, I mean, you should all definitely be going and taking a look at the building, if you haven't already. So that's one way, is go there and take some measurements. But looking at this photo, what there gives us an idea of size. Yeah, that definitely, the heights, the slab there maybe will tell you an idea about the levels, but there's something else. What's the material? What's the building made from? Brick. So? Brick, right? It's all brick. And that's great. When you've got a building that's faced brickwork, this is what made me love brick. I never really liked the look of faced brickwork until I realised how useful it is when you've got a building that's made from it, because you can just count the bricks. So do you know the height of a brick? I know you do, because Kylie's been telling me. 76. 76 and then 10 mil for the mortar. There we go, that's right. So remember that measurement, and you can use that, if you count these bricks, to work out the height of anything like this. So you just sit there and go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you count those bricks. Now, I'm going to let you do that. I'm just going to guess the height, and I'll be able to adjust that later. But again, you should count the height by counting the bricks. Oh yeah, sure, I'll just do that. I'm just recording. Okay, so here by eye, I'm going to say that's about 3 metres high. It's probably higher, but let's say it's about 3 metres high. And then the sill height is about 500. Well, this one I will count the bricks because there aren't many. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's say 7 bricks. Okay, so calculator. So 7 times 86, 602. Now, I shouldn't have had to multiply that because, well, you might not know, but 7 courses should equal 600 exactly. It's one of those standards. So it's actually 600. We'll say 602. No, we'll round to 600. Okay, so I've got this line that I want to move up 600 mil. So I'm going to select it, click move, click a base point, and then type in 600. And again, I'm going to say the opening's about 3 metres high. So I'm going to use Picc lines again, make the offset distance 3000, and then pick the right line. Now it's trying to get the floor there every time, so I'm going to have to orbit to get the line that I want. And then I can use, again, trim to corner and join all these together. It's finished. Okay, so I've got my opening, and you can then just keep going like that to make the other openings. Okay, so coming back, I'll do another one. 600. Yeah. From the street, and then 3 metres. Yeah. But you'll need to check that measurement by counting the bricks. Okay, so again, I'm going to select the wall, edit profile, and I'll do another one from scratch just so you can see, but you could copy the previous one if you want to as well. Okay, but I want to get on to doing curtain walls. So I'm going to use Picc lines and then pick the 2 piers. And this time, I'm going to try and pick this line. You can see there it's not letting me pick it. If that happens, sometimes it's easier just to draw a line and snap to it, and then you can just take it across and that lines it up just as well. And if you get a message about overlapping lines, don't worry, because you should know that that's the case, and when you go and trim those together, they won't be overlapping anymore. And then this one does go down to street level. So I can just pick the floor and then again trim the corner to join those together. And I've got another opening. So now I'm going to go back and draw another curtain wall and just spend a bit more time going over the curtain wall tool. So again, with the wall tool, I'll make sure it's on curtain wall 6mm thick glazing. And for the positioning inside the wall, yeah, I'm just going to say make it centred on the thicker wall, the inner wall. So then we've got 2 walls. We've got the outer wall and the inner wall. And you can see the centre line is that dashed line that comes up. So I'm going to snap to that, bring it over to the right, and make sure that the glass is going to the outside. Right, so when you press space, you'll see that flips the glass side to side. And this is a basic principle of glazing. With windows or curtain walls, the glass should be closer to the outside than the inside. So in other words, if it's on the inside of your centre line, it's on the wrong side. So it's going to be on the outside of the centre line, and that's it there. Now notice I didn't worry about the height because I'm going to go now to the 3D view, and you can see there's my wall, and I can use the arrow there to stretch that to the top of the opening, but again you want to check the opening height before you go too far with that. So I've done that part, and now I want to have a look at some options. So we've got a beam there. It's not actually essential, right? So it's entirely possible to remove that beam. Let's come around here and have a better look at it. So why do you think that's the case? Why can you remove that steel beam without affecting the structure of the building? That's right, it's not supporting anything except the curtain wall itself. So if you were to have a double height curtain wall inside there, you wouldn't need that beam. So this beam here, it's just supporting the upper panel. Now you can keep it if you want to, and that could be an option, but otherwise it's entirely possible to take it out. So the reason it's not supporting anything we know is because they've got this much bigger concrete beam up above, and that's what's holding the wall up above. But it's still an interesting feature, so I'm going to show you if you do want to keep it, you can put a beam using the beam tool. So I'm going to go back to the ground floor plan and show you how to do that. On the structure tab, you've got the beam tool. So the beam that you happen to have loaded is actually the right kind of beam, UB. So UB just means universal beam. And if I go to load family, and then you want to see some other beams, they're all in the structural folder usually, or in the default library. They've now got their own folder, structural framing. So these are mostly for engineers, a little bit more complex things, and architects and people who use them all the time. But for interiors, it's still good to know they're there because it saves you modelling all these things when you want to have them exposed. So I'm going to cancel that though, because again, I've got the one I want already loaded. And I'll just go to edit type and duplicate and then change the size to 205 to the first number, leave the rest, and then find the width here. Where is it? Engineers love doing things in centimetres. Well, not in Australia, but somewhere else they obviously do. So there you can see 16, that's not right. Oh, that's the structural section. Oh, this is a terrible beam actually. So, look, we could make this one work, but because of the way it's set up, I'm going to load another one. So again, load family, and I'll get the default library, where I know they've got a newer version. Go structural framing, and then steel, and we'll get another UB. Not that one. Where is it? This one, UB. Yeah. And I'll just get some other sizes. So it's a fairly small beam, so I think maybe that might be good. Maybe this one. Yeah, that'll be 178 by 102. And there we are. So it's your first time using the beam tool. I would say just draw it in the plan. So I'm going to here just trace over the ground floor plan, left to right, tracing over my curtain wall. And it's telling me there nothing visible in my view. It's fine. Back to the 3D view, and then you can probably just see the edge of it there. There it is. So now I want to lift that thing up so that it's above the ground. And if we go back to this view again, you can count bricks to work out that height. I'm just going to eyeball it, well, and use some logic to work it out. Aside from counting bricks, is there anything else you can see there that gives us an idea of the height? In this storefront that I'm trying to make? What's something there that you would all be used to walking through? Yeah, windows, and then what's next to it? You've got a door. Right, so the door must be at least 2100. It's probably 2400. That's a fairly standard height for doors like this. So I'm just going to assume it's 2400. So, to change the height, you go into properties, and then over here you've got start level offset. So I'll make that 2400, and then end level offset. And then again 2400. Apply, and then you can see the beams come up. Oops. So now my curtain wall, in properties, I'm going to change the top constraint, make sure it's unconnected, and make that 2400. And what have I done? I've forgotten the beam thickness. So I've brought the wall down to 2400, and now the top of the beam, we can see, also sits at 2400. So I'm going to add the beam height. Right, so if you look at this, you can see the height there is 177.8. Let's just round that off and make it 180. And then in properties, what's the height going to be? 2580. So 2400 plus 180. And there we are. I know sometimes with interiors you'll think, I shouldn't have to be doing the maths. But unfortunately, if you're going to work in anything to do with the building industry, have we all seen from... Did all of you watch Four Corners last night? You didn't? That should be required viewing. Because it was about the construction industry, the issues with apartments. And it's good for a bit of a wake-up call for people, because I think a lot of people think that they can just leave it to someone else to do this compliance and make things accurate. And if that's the case, then it usually just doesn't get done properly, and that's when you have a lot of problems. So, ABC, yeah. So you'll be able to get it on iView, and you should all have a look, because you can see there's a lot of issues with people not doing their job properly and buildings not being built properly because of that. And it's because of simple things like this. People don't think about documenting things accurately, and then the builders work it out on site and they don't build it properly. No. The designer is definitely one of the responsible people, and they're changing the law so that it will be a legal requirement that designers take responsibility. I always do with my own projects. Yes, of course. Of course. That's what you're paid to do. They're as well. They're there as well, but they're not across everything. So everyone's got to take responsibility. And the designer is definitely one of the people who has to take responsibility. Absolutely. Well, but see, often they don't document it properly, and that's why the builders can't build it properly. So we've got the curtain wall there finally, and we know everything's lining up. So what is a way, if you want to have that curtain wall copied above? Well, I'll ask you in a second when I get to that, but just think about the fact that we've got to have another curtain wall above, but at least I've got this curtain wall. It's the right size. It might seem like a lot of work just to get a blank plain glass wall there, but then once we've gotten that far, it's a lot easier. So I want to have a storefront. I'm just trying to do a simple one like this. Fairly easy because it's got some glass panels and then a door. So using curtain grid, I can then move the cursor either on the side to get a horizontal grid. I don't need that for this one. So do you need me to... Oh. Okay, no, it's empty. Okay, so just make sure it's clear to you when you move your cursor on the edge of the wall, that gives you the grid lines going this way, and your cursor going this bottom edge gives you the grid lines going the other way. So they're vertical grid lines when they go along the bottom or the top, and if I go to the side, that gives me the horizontal grid lines. Right, so now if I go and place a grid line there, well, it might not be the right size. That's not a big deal because I can always select the grid line and then change that spacing. And, well, again, just by eye, would you have an idea how wide that door could be? Yeah, it probably is about 1 metre, but you could always make it a little bit bigger as well. So I'm going to make it, it's 1 metre now, but maybe I'll make it 1100. It's a bit nicer, and you can see the proportions work a bit better. So that's the way you set up your curtain walls. Start with a plain glass one, then put the grids in, then put the frames on at the end. So here you can see it's actually frameless. There's no frame there between the door and the panel, but they've got something at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to show you how to put in your own custom frames. So with the curtain grid tool, so firstly I've been using that to put in the divisions. Next to that you've got the mullion tool. So with the mullion tool, if you click on the properties panel, you'll see all the different types of preloaded mullions. And you can probably get most of the ones you need from there. So if we go to, let's say, the rectangular mullions, we've got the two there, 30mm square and 50 by 150. It's going to choose one of them. And then, well, I'll show you how that one is. If I just pick a grid line, that puts in a big mullion. You can probably tell the size is 50 by 150. Look at it in plan. Right? measuring that. Of course, it's going to be 50 across this way, and then 150 the other way. Big chunky mullion. I don't want a big chunky mullion like that, so I'm going to delete that one. And I don't even want to put a mullion on that grid line. I just want to show you what it looks like. So I really want my mullions at the top and the bottom, so I can place a mullion here, another one at the top as well, to follow what you've got there. But it's not the right size. So it's 50 by 150. I want to make it thinner and higher. So I'm going to go to Edit Type, Duplicate, and I'm going to make mine 100 by 40. So the width then is going to be 40. Yeah, and then the width on, sorry, the thickness is going to be 40. Sorry, and then the width on side 2. This one is where you divide the other dimension by 2. So it's 100. That's my width. But you have to do it either side. So here we make this 50, and then the other one 50 as well, and that adds up to 100. And you'll see that'll make more sense once you've tried it a few times. And so then I'm just going to change one option. I'll show you what happens if I don't. If I pick this option, you can see there it's putting the mullion, but it's going across the door, and I don't want that, right? Because I want the door without a mullion at the bottom. So undo that. And so then I'm going to change it here. Instead of grid line, I'm going to go to grid line segment. And then I'll pick it again, and you'll see it's just going to pick the one side. And then the same at the top. So it's getting there, but then there's still one last problem, and that's that the mullion, you can see, sits behind the glass. We don't want that. So once you get to this level, you've got to think about systems and construction systems, really, is what we're looking at. And hi, how are you? Okay, so with these curtain wall systems, there is sometimes quite a bit of setup you need to get the result you want. So here you can see, maybe in the floor plan it's even easier, the mullion behind the glass there. And when you select the curtain wall, you'll see why. So if you look at the way, and this will give you a much better idea of the way curtain walls work, you can see there's the centre line of the curtain wall. So the mullion, this is the mullion is centred on the wall centre line. So the mullion isn't the problem is the glass. So now I'm going to use Tab and select one of the glass panels, go to Edit Type, and you'll see where the problem is. It's here. There's an offset built into the glass panel, right? And this is the way a lot of curtain walls would be, where again you want the glass closer to one side of the wall or to the outside of the wall. But here I don't want that. I want to make it a bit simpler and have the glass centred on the curtain wall itself. So I'm just going to make that offset 0. And that's what you should often do. When you just want to do simplified curtain walls, just make that offset 0. You can see there again, even though the wall is called 6mm thick glazing, notice that they've made the glass 25mm thick. So that 6mm thick glazing is just the name, but the thickness is actually 25. What thickness do you think the glass is in real life? Closer to 6, yeah. So this is just so you can see it more easily in your view. So there we are. So now, back into the 3D view, how much better is that? Right, so the glass now sits over my frame. So that's getting there, but then the final thing is I want to have a panel now on the left that's a door. So just like I did before, to select that glass panel, got to use Tab, click, and then do you remember how to load curtain wall panels? Okay, so curtain walls don't work like normal walls. To put doors in, you need to work a bit differently. You've got to select the panel first, like I just have, then go to Edit Type, and then click Load. The Load button at the top. Yeah. And so then you'll see in the default library, there's a special folder for curtain wall panels. That's where you find doors for curtain walls. Right, so there's the one I was after. So that's this door single glass framed push plate. And there we are. But notice, again, it's offset to one side. That's all in the panel settings. So if I go to Edit Type, you'll see why. It's got, if we scroll down, funnily enough, in a different place, here, offset 50. So what do I do? Exactly. And that centres it. And you can see then that my, if we want to be really accurate, my panel at the bottom is a bit higher. Now I can always go and edit this mullion, but if you have a look at the door settings, we'll probably find there's a setting for that in there, and here it is. So the bottom style, they've got 125. Remember mine was 100, so I'll make that 100 as well for the door, and now that lines up perfectly. So it's all those little things, and again, it's a bit of setup just for one, but then once you've done it for one, of course, you're going to have many that are the same, and then you can just keep copying it. So I'll show you one last thing to make it easier to copy. If I go to the elevation now. Right, so there's my curtain wall. Oh, there's another good thing to see. The beam there, you can see sitting above, doesn't look like a beam. So have you seen that before? When beams don't show up properly? Yeah, it's a common thing. It's the way they're set to show by default, which it's all to do with engineering. For interior design, you don't want to see that sort of simplified engineering display. So what do? Down here, change it to fine. And there's my beam. Okay, so that's the beam. And now I'm going to make a level that sits exactly on top of that beam. Now, do you know how to check to see if they're lined up? See there, my level doesn't sit exactly on the beam. So maybe you can go to thin lines and then use the align tool, and you should be able to pick the top of your beam and then your level. Right, so 2580 is the height, and that's right. And I'm going to call this ground floor beam. Okay, so you'll see why that makes it so much easier now, because I can select this wall, copy a clipboard, and then paste, align to selected levels, ground floor beam. So that puts a copy on top. Don't worry about these warnings, we'll just close that. And then I can use this arrow to stretch that to line up with my opening at the top. Later, if we realise the opening changes height, we can always adjust it to follow. There we are. Okay, so looking back at this image here, you can see that's just a single glass panel. There would be some divisions, but I'm not going to worry about those right now. So what do I do to get rid of that door? That's the main reason it looks weird. All you should have to do is select the grid line and delete it. And that'll take that panel away. Okay, so if you want to, you can put the mullions on the same. There's this one. Actually, that one's just the thinner one, so I'll just stretch this up. So I'll just show you one last mullion. So there you can see it's got this mullion that I made, but I want the smaller one. So in your default list of mullions, you'll see there's this one 30mm square, which is a nice plainer one you can use for smaller ones. And I'll just put another one on top. Oops, sorry, not a grid, mullion. Anyhow, I could go a lot further, but it's probably good just to maybe see if you can get to that point. try and get some different patterns of opening. So here you can see some others that I've started, and once they're done, it's easy to put mullions on those and get the framing to have the pattern you want. And again, once you've got a couple of different types of mullions, it's fairly easy to build those up. You can also look at the way these join together, and you've got options there for connecting them if they don't connect in the right way. So it doesn't take long to build up, fairly complex patterns. And again, you can always copy them. So if I select the beam and some of these other curtain walls, you can of course copy them in plan, just like so. What's that? So back into my 3D view. Yeah. So there again, just like before, I can change the height of this opening, also change the height of the wall, and so you can see it's a different configuration. So I can always change that panel there back to glazed. Put in some more grids. So I might just finish up showing you how to get even grid spacings. So would you have an idea if you've got curtain grids like this? So they're just grid lines. Maybe I'll take the mullions off just so it's easier for you to see the grids. So I've just got grids in that curtain wall. How would you make those grids even? If you want to make all those grid spacings exactly the same. You could sit there and measure it, so you could select them and measure the whole thing and then type in the measurements, but you don't have to. If you draw a dimension, so here you've got the dimension tool, a line dimension, go from one side to a grid, to a grid, to a grid, to the other side, place the dimension to one side, and then use the equals option. Yep. So equals just comes up when you select a dimension, you get the equals option. The dimension. So that dimension that I've drawn, that's what I've selected, this dimension option. So I drew the dimension. So I'll just do that again. Okay, so I'll go back. Okay, so when you draw a dimension using the align dimension tool, right, so again, just from one side to the grid line, grid line, grid line, and the other side. Yep, place it anywhere. So then you've got to make sure that dimension's selected, and you'll see the equals option. It's a bit hard to see there, but it is there. That's it there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll move it up so it's easier to see. So there you can see there's equals. I'll choose that, and now my grids are evenly spaced. Now here there are actually, oh that's right, there are 4. So that's it, and then you can go and put mullions on still. So I can now go back to mullion, get the one I want, and these are just the top and the bottom anyway. There we go, done. That's another one. And again, you can use the same approach. If I want to copy that now, it's easy. Select it, copy to clipboard, paste, align to selected levels, go to, again, ground floor beam. Don't worry about the warning. And there, instead of using the arrows to stretch it, I'll type in the base offset, make that 0. And then the top I will stretch. There we go. And yeah, and then just go from there. So I can change the mullions over to the other one. And just keep going like that. Oh, the thinner one. So there, these ones don't need the big heavy mullions because they're not operable, like they don't move. So the thinner ones will be fine there. Right, so no curtain walls. At first, it seems like a lot of work, and it is in a way, but it's all done to make life easier in the long run. We've got these complex patterns. They're still just rectangular patterns though. Again, if you look at a lot of those modernist designs, they are based on just different rectangular patterns. And then you should be able to do all the storefronts that you need. So maybe for the awnings, we'll look at some other options. If you do want to have awnings like that, that would be a really good option too. I don't know how far you've gone into sustainability. Definitely something you need to start looking at this point. It's critical in all design areas these days, but particularly the work you're doing. And yeah, I might give you some time to try those things and spend a bit of time getting used to the curtain wall tool a bit more, and then we can get back onto the interiors. So maybe just before I finish up, I'll just see what you're remembering. So see these openings here. What if I wanted to make those openings the same height as the ones I've just done? Do you think that'd be easy to achieve? So these openings here, they're not the right height. I want to bring them up higher. Not easily. You can't really copy and paste, but there is a way that's fairly easy. Okay, so I'm going to show you. So if I select this wall, go Edit Profile. So remember, to line things up, the best tool usually is Align. So with the Align tool, I'm going to pick the top of that opening there. Right, so that's my plane. And then I can pick one of these lines, and it lines up exactly. How easy is that? Want me to do that again? Okay, so I'll select that wall again, Edit Profile, the Align tool, and then again find the surface that I'm trying to line up with. So you've got to be careful and look at the surface that you're picking, not just pick anywhere. So there, that's the surface. You can see at the top of the opening, and then I can pick the line that I want to move up to line up with that surface or that plane. Does that make sense? You know, something you probably could sort of spend some time on. And again, to work on big buildings like this, so you've got to look at those things. And yeah, that's it. Otherwise, it's just a matter of getting the curtain walls to fit inside those openings and then decide on the pattern you want.